want to go back to an interesting basketball story that has taken place all of a sudden over the last couple days. LiAngelo Ball is currently playing on the Charlotte Hornets G League team at the moment. Feels like we haven't heard his name in quite some while. Well, boy, has he made a resurgent return to the NBA headlines. This is a guy who, according to reports, the Charlotte Hornets now are loving LiAngelo Ball. They absolutely raved about him. All the scouts, all the front office execs, they've talked about how prior to Summer League, he had showed up to the training facility. The practice facility was there 2 months ahead of time, getting in work every single day to try and make a roster spot, at least on the G League team. Obviously, his goals are bigger than that. He's not just trying to make the Summer League. He's got a new look now with the braids, and so he's trying to make an actual Charlotte Hornets roster spot. And what's amazing about him, he's one of those guys where you think he's a lot older than he actually is. LiAngelo Ball is only 22 years old. He's 22 years old, 6'5", 230 pounds. Obviously, he's extremely physical, extremely strong, great girth, possesses that girth, that strength, right? And in 4 Summer League games, he's averaged 10.5 points on 42% shooting from the three-point line, 1.5 steals in his debut. He scored 16 points, 5 for 5 shooting from the three-point line. And this was really his longest extended run for basketball. Because this was a guy who really, since going undrafted in 2018, he signed a G League contract with the Oklahoma City Blue in March of 2020. But COVID nixed any season. So he didn't even have an opportunity to play for them. He was signed by the Detroit Pistons on their G League team, or he kind of made the training camp roster for at least 11 days. He was cut, though, after 11 days. So this is really the longest stretch of time that we've seen LiAngelo Ball playing for an organization. Now, not to say that talent-wise he isn't good enough or shouldn't be qualified or shouldn't qualify to make an NBA roster team. But when we truly evaluate which rosters he would be eligible to make, there's really only 2 teams that come to mind. And it's the 2 teams that his other siblings are on. So obviously the Charlotte Hornets with LaMelo Ball there, and the Chicago Bulls with Lonzo Ball there. Those are really the only 2 teams that it makes any type of sense for him to be on. Now, again, from a talent perspective, he's a borderline NBA player. I'm still not entirely convinced that this is a guy from a talent perspective, from a pure basketball standpoint, if he's good enough. I don't think that he's necessarily athletic enough. I think he's a little bit undersized given the size that he has. I think that I need to see a little bit more playmaking from him. Most of his scoring just came from the outside on catch and shoot spot up 3-point attempts. So there's certainly a lot more opportunities to see him improve. But again, when you've got that innate girth and size and physicality, there's certainly something to work with there. I'm not going to say he doesn't possess any talent whatsoever where it's not feasible or thinkable that he could make a roster. Again, I think people forget that this is a guy who is just 22 years old. So if he can continue to shoot the 3 ball really well and improve his defense, then I think he can make a roster. And the fact that he is just 22 years old, I don't know what his ceiling is. I don't know if he's reached his full potential now, or maybe this is an indication and an indicator that he still has more room to grow, which he obviously does. And maybe he can. Maybe he can realize some more potential. And if you believe that, then perhaps it's a good idea to bring him on. Because I will say this, that the only reason why, and I'd say the main reason why I think that this could work, especially with the Hornets, is because of the familial ties that exist there. I think that this is it. The Ball brothers are extremely tight-knit, extremely close family where I think that it actually could make some basketball sense, which could both work to the advantage of LiAngelo and LaMelo. I think that LiAngelo's presence could help elevate that of LaMelo Ball, given the familiarity, the stability, the comfortability factor that exists there. Not to say that LaMelo Ball needs it, given he just won Rookie of the Year last year, but I think that his presence alone could help. And I think conversely, LaMelo being on the same roster as LiAngelo would continue to inspire him, seeing his younger brother crushing it. That would inspire LiAngelo to play a lot better. Because the perfect example is the Milwaukee Bucks. No one is suggesting that Thanasis Antetokounmpo is better than Giannis. Giannis is the star. And Giannis was a star even before Thanasis joined the Bucks a couple years ago. But at the same time, I think that there's good reason to believe that given how close those brothers are to one another, that Thanasis' presence alone, I think, really benefited Giannis. The fact that you have an actual brother of yours on the roster cheering you on in critical moments, in big games, in big spots of your career, I think proved wonders for Giannis. I think that he would say there's a reason why the Bucks re-signed him. Yes, he's physical. Yes, he's a good defender. Great energy. But we've seen a lot of guys like that. That's not always a reason to bring someone back. They're extremely close, and it's that bond which I think really helped improve Giannis's play. And I think that a similar sentiment could be said, a similar thing could be said about potentially LiAngelo Ball and LaMelo Ball. And so, listen, say what you want about LeVar and his parenting methods and who he is as an individual. The fact of the matter is the kids themselves are extremely humble kids. They show a great reverence for the game of basketball. They are simply hoopers. They simply want to go out and play basketball. They're not into the trash talking. They're not into the ego, the personal ego on the basketball court. They're not about trying to showcase themselves. They're about just trying to go out there and hoop. Lonzo isn't a trash talker. He never said a word when he entered the league. Everything was started because of LeVar. LaMelo, sure, he's got flair. He's got some sizzle to his game. He's got some pizzazz to his game and style. But he himself just focuses on playing basketball. He's not into the personal ego. And by all accounts, that looks to be true of LiAngelo. LiAngelo Ball doesn't seem like the type of guy who is craving all the personal attention. He's just trying to get some opportunities to get some running, to get some playing. And so obviously, if you're LeVar Ball, hopefully he will have learned from the previous handling of his sons entering the league to maybe stay a little bit more mum on the public side of things if his sons are in the league. And I think the Hornets, obviously, you know that you're acquiring LeVar Ball as well, but I think again that he will have learned from his mistakes a little bit more in that situation. He might again stay a little bit quieter on the public front, but it'd be interesting. Now the Hornets are deep at the guard position, both at the shooting guard and the point guards. At the shooting guard position right now, they've got Terry, they've got Terry Rozier, they've got Kelly Oubre, who they just signed, James Bouknight, who they signed 11th, who they drafted 11th overall in this past NBA draft. Then they obviously have at the point guard positions LaMelo Ball. They just signed Ish Smith, Brad Wanamaker. So it's a bit of a crowded guard spot because LiAngelo, again, being that he's 6'5", he's a bit undersized to play the small forward position, which is probably the biggest reservation about him is the fit there. But again, I think overall, while it is going to be tough for him to make a roster spot, there's no question about that. But it'd be interesting to see. I would certainly be interested to see all three Ball brothers in the NBA. So I'm rooting for him. I think that LaMelo's obviously rooting for him. Lonzo's obviously rooting for him. We'll see what happens on that front.